A young black waitress was serving her first shift when she overheard the Billionaire CEO's conversation about his massive deal. Seconds before he signed the $100 billion contract, she did the unthinkable. She told him to leave. What she'd discovered would either destroy her career or save thousands of lives. Emma Williams adjusted her new waitress uniform nervously. Her first day at Riverside Restaurant, representing hope after months of job searching in a city that seemed determined to overlook young black women without connections or privilege. At 24 years old, she'd finally landed this position through sheer persistence, her bright smile and determined optimism refusing to accept defeat despite countless rejections. The upscale restaurant catered to business executives, and today's lunch rush included the city's most powerful CEO, Marcus Sterling of Sterling Industries, preparing to sign a historic $100 billion manufacturing deal with international partners. Marcus Sterling sat in the private dining room with his legal team and foreign investors, contracts spread across the table, champagne ready for celebration. His empire would expand exponentially through this deal, cementing his position as one of the world's wealthiest men. Emma served their table professionally, refilling water glasses and delivering meals, her presence barely registered by men discussing billions as casually as others discussed grocery budgets. But Emma's hearing was sharp, and fragments of conversation made her blood run cold. This manufacturing deal involved factories in countries with documented child labor violations, environmental destruction that would poison water supplies for millions, and deliberate exploitation of workers too desperate to refuse starvation wages. During a brief moment when the investors stepped away, Emma made a decision that could cost her everything. She approached Marcus directly, her voice quiet but firm despite her trembling hands. "Mr. Sterling, I need to speak with you. It's about your deal. You can't sign this." Marcus looked up with irritation at the interruption from a waitress he'd never noticed. "Excuse me? This is a private meeting." Emma pressed forward, her conscience overriding fear. "I overheard your conversation. This deal involves child labor and environmental damage that will hurt thousands of people. You're a powerful man. You could demand better terms, force ethical standards. Please, don't sign this." The room fell silent as Marcus's attorneys looked at Emma with fury, one already reaching for his phone to call her manager. Marcus's face darkened with anger at this presumptuous interruption from someone so far beneath his social status. "Who do you think you are, telling me how to run my business? Get out before I have you fired and blacklisted from every restaurant in this city." Emma felt tears threatening but held her ground, her grandmother's teachings about standing for truth echoing in her heart. "I'm someone who believes you're better than this deal. I've read about your charity work, your speeches about responsibility. This contract contradicts everything you claim to value. If you sign it, you'll profit from children's suffering. That's not power, Mr. Sterling. That's just being cruel." Her words hung in the air as Marcus stared at this young woman who dared challenge him publicly, her courage unmistakable despite obvious terror of consequences. Something in her honest conviction penetrated his defensive anger. When had anyone last spoken truth to him, rather than telling him what he wanted to hear? He dismissed his team abruptly, asking Emma to sit down and explain exactly what she'd overheard. For 30 minutes, Emma outlined the ethical violations embedded in the contract terms, information she'd recognized from her college research papers on corporate responsibility before financial hardship forced her to abandon her degree. Marcus listened, truly listened, perhaps for the first time in years. His own research team had glossed over these details, focused solely on profit margins. His attorneys had assured him everything was technically legal, never mentioning the moral bankruptcy of exploiting desperation. Emma's passionate explanation revealed what Marcus had deliberately avoided seeing, that this deal made him complicit in suffering, that wealth built on exploitation was poisoned at its foundation. When she finished, tears streaming down her face from emotional exhaustion, Marcus sat in silence, processing the truth he'd been avoiding. He called his investors back and shocked them by refusing to sign, demanding complete restructuring with ethical labor standards, environmental protections, and living wages. Knowing this would reduce his profits significantly, but unable to proceed otherwise after hearing Emma's courageous testimony, the investors threatened to walk away, but Marcus stood firm. Emma's words having awakened something dormant in his conscience. The deal eventually proceeded months later with complete ethical overhauls that saved thousands of children from factory exploitation and protected communities from environmental devastation. Marcus found Emma before she left the restaurant, expecting termination. Instead, he offered her a position at Sterling Industries' new Ethics Oversight Division, funding completion of her interrupted degree and thanking her for having the courage to speak truth when silence would have been safer. Emma's one brave moment transformed not just her life, but corporate practices affecting millions, proving that power recognizes moral authority, that courage matters more than position, and that sometimes the most important voice in the room belongs to the person everyone assumed had nothing valuable to say.